Hi guys, we are going to talk about superlative adjectives today. But before we do that, let's remember, we have comparative adjectives and now we're going to learn about superlative adjectives. Comparative adjectives are used to show the difference between two objects or two things or two people using adjectives. For example, when we say I am shorter than you, we use two people, I and you, and an adjective, short. So we say, I am shorter than you, or you are shorter than me. Now, when we talk about superlative, it's a little bit different because we use superlative adjectives to show how one thing or one person or one object is at the top of a list. For example, we say, I am the shortest in the class. One person, I, and the list is the class. I am the shortest in the class. Now, we have, as we talked about before, we have short adjectives and long adjectives. For example, short, long, tall, small, fast, easy, hot, and cold are short adjectives. And in the comparative form, short adjectives take er, then at the end. And in superlative form, they take the in the beginning and est, est at the end. So short in comparative form is shorter than, and in superlative form it is the shortest. Long is longer than in comparative form and the longest in superlative form. Tall is taller than in comparative form, the tallest in superlative form. Small is smaller than in comparative form and the smallest in superlative form. Fast is faster than in comparative form, the fastest in the superlative form. Now, easy is a little bit different. Remember how we take the Y out and put I instead in actions in present simple tense. For example, fly. For example, cry. Now, with this one, we do the same thing, but not for every Y. If the Y, look at here, if the Y is at the end of the word and the letter that comes before it is a consonant, B, C, D, G, H, K, M, then we take the Y out and we put I instead. So easy, easier than in comparative form, and the easiest in the superlative form. And the same thing happens with the Y. We take the Y out and we put I instead. Hot becomes hotter than in comparative form and the hottest in superlative form. Careful, we put T 2 times, so we double the T. Why? Well, because as I said before, with many things, I advise you to learn by seeing or by reading, but I'm going to tell the rule just because maybe there are people who are wondering. So hot is an adjective that has only one syllable and goes consonant, vowel, consonant. Remember, consonant is B, C, D, and vowel is A, E, I, O, U. So hot becomes hotter than, and we double the T and we say hotter than in comparative form, and the hottest in the superlative form. And cold becomes colder than in comparative form, and the coldest in the superlative form. Now, these are examples of short adjectives. Of course, it's not the all short adjectives here. Long adjectives are, for example, expensive, comfortable, laid back, handsome, beautiful, famous, convenient, useful. Now with these ones, we don't put er at the end, but we put more before the adjective and then after the adjective in comparative form. And in the superlative form, we don't put anything after the adjective, but we put the most before the adjective. So, expensive becomes more expensive than in comparative form, the most expensive in superlative form. Comfortable, remember we never say comfortable because we are not talking about a table, we say comfortable. So, comfortable becomes more comfortable than, and it becomes the most comfortable in the superlative form. Laid back in comparative form is more laid back than, and in the superlative form it's the most laid back. Handsome is more handsome than in comparative form and the most handsome in the superlative form. Beautiful is more beautiful than in comparative form, the most beautiful in superlative form. Famous is more famous than in comparative form and the most famous in superlative form. Convenient is more convenient than in comparative form and the most convenient in superlative form. Again, when we say convenient, we use eshwa, the sound. Useful, we say more useful than in comparative form and the most useful in superlative form. Now moving on, we have less and the least. Less is the opposite of more, so apparently more is the opposite of less. The least is the opposite of the most, and same thing goes, the most is the opposite of the least. What do we mean by that? Now, Istanbul is more crowded than Ankara. Ankara is less crowded than Istanbul. But going back, for example, when we say expensive, we don't have to say less expensive, we can simply say cheap. Comfortable, comfortable, we don't have to say less comfortable, although we can. We prefer to say uncomfortable, right? So many adjectives, especially short adjectives, have very simple, easy to find opposites. Short, long, hot, cold. But sometimes, for example, famous. Sometimes it's very difficult to find a direct opposite of the word. That's when we use less or the least. Same thing happens with crowded. There is no direct opposite. Of course, there are many words that we can use, but it's not as easy to think as when we say hot, cold, or easy, difficult. That's why we say Istanbul is more crowded than Ankara, or Ankara is less crowded than Istanbul. Both sentences give the same meaning, because more is the opposite of less, and we change the city names, and they give the same meaning, because double opposite, right? And Istanbul is the most crowded city in Turkey. Tunceli is the least crowded city in Turkey. So, least also talks about a list, one thing in the list, maybe the top, maybe the bottom. And less also talks about two things, also uses comparative. There are three exceptions that we need to know: good, bad, and far. Now, good becomes better than in comparative form, and it becomes the best in the superlative form. Bad becomes worse than in comparative form, and the worst in the superlative. Far becomes further than or farther than in comparative form, and it becomes the furthest or the farthest in the superlative form. But of course, one of them is more popular to use. We use further than or the furthest more. Of course, we can use the farther than or the farthest, but this is more popular. So we have a table. Pause the video here, complete the table. If the table gives us the adjective, then we put comparative form and superlative form of the same adjective. If the table gives us comparative form, we put the adjective and superlative form of it. If it gives us the superlative form of the adjective, then we put the base adjective, like the simple adjective, or the comparative form of the adjective. Pause the video here, I'm saying it again, and try to fill in the blanks. Because when you play the video, I'm going to show the answers. So, shy in comparative form is shyer than, and superlative form the shyest. More annoying than, in adjective form it's annoying, and in superlative form it's the most annoying. The craziest, in the adjective form it's crazy, and comparative it is crazier than. Understanding is the adjective, and in comparative form it becomes more understanding than, in superlative form the most understanding. The most fascinating, fascinating and more fascinating than. Late, later than, and the latest. You can simply remember this by this phrase that we use a lot. See you later, right? We say later, not late, but later. So softer, soft is the adjective, and the softest is the superlative form. Cool becomes cooler than in comparative, and the coolest in superlative. The greatest. Great is the adjective, greater than is the comparative. We don't say great, we say great. And in comparative form, more relaxing, and it is relaxing and the most relaxing. Finally, we have reliable, more reliable than, and the most reliable. I want you to be careful. We cannot use and more together. Or we cannot use ist and most together. Take the adjective. Look at it. Is it long or is it short? Long means more than 2 syllables, and short means less than 2 syllables. For example, understanding, 4 syllables. Fascinating, again, 4 syllables. Relaxing, 3 syllables. Reliable, 4 syllables. But crazy, just 1. Shy, 1. Late, 1. Soft, 1 syllable. Cool, 1 syllable. Great, 2 syllables. Right? So when I have cool, I cannot say more cooler. No. It's cooler. And I cannot say the most coolest. No. I say the coolest. Or when I talk about annoying, I cannot say more annoyinger than, or I cannot say the most annoyingest. It's either more or it's either most or ist. So not together, just one. Now, we have a couple of sentences. In the parentheses, we have the adjectives. We're going to take a look at the sentences. We're going to choose comparative or superlative form. Of course, we need to take a look at the sentence, and then we will understand if it's comparative or superlative. Pause the video here again. try to answer the sentences, try to fill in the blanks on your own, because when you play the video, I'm going to show you the answers. So, this book is the most fascinating book ever. Why? Because we are not talking about two books, we're talking about one book. Next one. Summers are hotter than winter. Why? Because we're talking about summer and winter. Next one. This film is better than the first one. Why? Because we're talking about this film and the first film. Riding a bike is healthier than driving. Why? Because we're talking about riding a bike and driving. The next one. I think Angelina Jolie is the most beautiful woman in the world. Why? Because we are only talking about Angelina Jolie. We're not talking about anyone else. So we think Angelina Jolie is the most beautiful woman in the world. And the list is the world, in the world. At the weekends, I wake up later than usual, because weekends and usual. Anaconda is the longest snake in the world. Why? Because we're talking only about anaconda. Ebooks are easier to carry than books. Why? Because ebooks and books, like the hard copy books. Today was the worst day of my life. Why? Because I'm only talking about today. My bed is more comfortable than this chair, for sure. My bed and this chair. Computers now are more useful than before. What are the two things? Computers, the computers now, and the computers before. So two types of computers. This party was the craziest party I have ever seen. Fall, autumn, is more romantic than spring. She is taller than me. Divan is the most expensive hotel in Mersin. There are 10 questions here. Some of them are comparative, some of them are superlative. Pause the video here. Answer the questions for yourself because these questions are personal questions. I will show you some example answers, but of course your answers can be different. Why? Because they are personal questions. Let's take a look at the answers. Of course, before we do that, I think you paused the video, answered the questions, now you're checking your answers. So, question number 1. Who woke up earlier today? You or your brother or your sister? If you don't have a brother or sister, you can simply use your mother or your father. I woke up earlier than my brother or sister today, or my brother or sister woke up earlier than me today. Or it can be different. You can change the question and give the same answer. Like this, I woke up later than my brother or sister today, or my brother or sister woke up later than me today. Question number 2. What is the most exciting sport in your opinion? Now, in your opinion means what do you think, right? So, the most exciting sport is bungee jumping, in my opinion. Or bungee jumping is the most exciting sport in my opinion. Or we can simply use in my opinion in the beginning of the sentence and we can say in my opinion, comma, the most exciting sport is bungee jumping. Or in my opinion, comma, bungee jumping is the most exciting sport. Question 3. Which one is safer? Playing football or watching football at a stadium? Playing football is safer than watching football at a stadium, or watching football at a stadium is safer than playing football. Or, of course, just like what we did in the first question, we can, like we did earlier later, so we can say, for example, playing football is more dangerous than watching football at a stadium, or watching football at a stadium is more dangerous than playing football. 4. Which cuisine is more delicious, Turkish or Italian? Now, maybe you don't know the meaning of cuisine, but I'm sure you can understand it from this sentence. It says Turkish or Italian, and it says delicious. What can be delicious? Food. Only food can be delicious. So Turkish food or Italian food. Also, we say cuisine. If you say cousin, it means your cousin is more delicious. It means you eat your cousin. That's scary. So the answer, Turkish cuisine is more delicious than Italian cuisine. Italian cuisine is more delicious than Turkish cuisine. Or, if we want to do it like the first or the third question, now, we can't really remember or we can't directly find the opposite of delicious. So we can say less delicious. So something like this. Turkish cuisine is less delicious than Italian cuisine, or Italian cuisine is less delicious than Turkish cuisine. 5. What's the best pastime activity? Now, we are talking about activity, but we are talking about them in noun form, not action form. So we say ing. We use gerund, yani we use fiilimsi here. The best pastime activity is reading, or reading is the best pastime activity. 6. Who is friendlier or more friendly? You or your best friend? Now, friendly can be used with or more, but never together. We can never say who is more friendlier. That would be wrong. So, who's friendlier or who is more friendly? You or your best friend? I am friendlier than my best friend, or I am more friendly than my best friend, or my best friend is friendlier than me, my best friend is more friendly than me. Again, it's not very easy to find a direct opposite of friendly, so we can use less here. 7. What's the most difficult subject for you at school? Now, these are personal questions, so your answers can be different, but my answer when I was a student, when I was your age, was chemistry. Chemistry is, or for me it was, the most difficult subject for me, or the most difficult subject for me is chemistry. For me, the most difficult subject is chemistry, not chemistry. Can be, some of you answered biology, some of you answered geography, some of you answered maths, physics. Thank God nobody said English. 8. Who is the worst singer in your opinion? I have very strong opinions about music, but I'm not going to tell you my answer. I'm going to say, in my opinion, the worst singer is me. Or, I am the worst singer in my opinion. Or, in my opinion, I am the worst singer. Or, the worst singer is me in my opinion. 9. Which city is a more enjoyable vacation place? Kuşadası or Cyprus? Not Cyprus, but Cyprus. Cyprus is a more enjoyable vacation place than Kuşadası, or Kuşadası is a more enjoyable vacation place than Cyprus. And the last question, who's younger, you or your brother or sister? Now in Turkish we have abla, abi and kız kardeş, erkek kardeş, but in English we only have brother and sister. So your brother can be younger than you or older than you. Your sister can be younger than you or older than you. When we're talking, if we want to make it short, we can say younger brother or older brother or elder brother, younger sister, older sister, elder sister. So, but if the question is like this, we say I am younger than my brother or sister, or my brother or sister is younger than me. I am older than my brother or sister. My brother or sister is older than me. Again, every question I ask with brother or sister, if you have none, you can simply use your mother or father as an example, right? That will be all, and I will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.